This is my presentation on my project Bayesian analysis for the United Airlines. United Airlines plans on running a promotional event to draw in customer engagement within the fictitious scenario, Utilizing public results of a customer satisfaction survey on another airline, we can do analysis and forecast on behavior of the customers to ensure efforts are utilized in effective areas. This data set has an array of features, including what is it, gender, customer type, age, class, and amongst a range of other things. United Airlines could provide a promotional event of one free international flight to one random customer who has completed a survey within November. The goal of utilizing November would be that it is a holiday month and that we would have high volume. Hopefully with the utilization of an incentive, we would have the ability to, overcome potential customer bias that might populate in via the outliers of the survey that would have it, that might potentially skew the data by pushing in volume. With it also being a holiday month, maybe we could potentially identify bottlenecks and or roadblocks that are potentially halting us to receive peak revenue within the holiday season. And maybe we could utilize Thanksgiving as prep work for the winter holidays. It's always a concern to not have a good distribution of data. With one key feature being gender in this situation, we want to ensure that both sides of the gender spectrum are being represented within this survey. So we've done an analysis here with class, and it appears that in both scenarios, in all three scenarios, gender is fairly presented, with for the most part a 50% distribution on each side, with mild variances. Unfortunately, the male on business and eco do seem to receive a slightly lower percentage, while the eco plus they receive an even lower percentage. But that being said, though, they're within a range where males aren't being overly presented, and there's a pretty reasonable distribution between the two genders. Cost. SurveyMonkey is the tool I would like to utilize to garner this data, essentially. And they do not offer a quote-unquote enterprise cost structure available online. So I've utilized their premier cost structure to essentially break down what I believe could potentially be the big ticket price. I've taken the average number of flights. I've taken the average number of passengers per flight via two online resources, and essentially garner the value I have. Then I've multiplied it by the number of days in November to get a maximum number of surveys in a way. And then from there, I've essentially divided it by the number of surveys you get per premier license per year. And then from there, multiplied that value by the $75 value that is the premier cost to get the value that I have now, which is the $62,850 value. So what this value essentially says is it would potentially cost up to this plus the cost of the flight, and depending on budgetary needs, international flights can be quite expensive. So maybe we potentially shift that between international and domestic, or have a cost restriction of what the voucher would be available, or yeah, be available or eligible for, however you want to word that. Moving forward, one thing to keep in mind is if we were to able to garner an enterprise license, this value might be potentially cheaper, whether we receive subsidies and or reductions at the enterprise level. It's not known, unfortunately, because they just don't populate or provide rather that information on their website. But it is a potential for cost savings in the future. Utilizing a Bayesian analysis with these survey results, we could potentially find avenues and or outlets that we don't currently already have available to us. Bayesian analysis provides us the ability to create or to utilize calculations of conditional probabilities, to take our survey data and basically push it a little bit farther when we're not able to identify certain characteristics of the data, The Bayesian theorem provides us a formula for the calculations of conditional probabilities. Those conditions allow us to essentially take characteristics that we have identified, like I just previously highlighted, and essentially calculate probabilities that we didn't have before. In this example we have in front of us, we have looking at the probability of an individual that's female, that is an eco customer, that happens to be drawn from eco data. From that, we're essentially looking at, again, where the eco customer exists within the female data set against females. Again, then against the female probability, and then finally against the eco. Where this benefit comes from is when we don't have that main value, we can extract it from the values that we do have. So in this instance, we're pushing past, barriers that we were bound with beforehand. So in an instance in which where you say you don't have a certain value, this Bayesian theorem allows you to essentially plug and play as long as you have essentially this quadrant map in a way to push past the limitations of your data set. This can again be great when you're just at a roadblock and you need that extra data set, and it can provide you the middle ground until you can appropriately provide a verified data set that that fits your needs a little bit more appropriately. This has been my presentation on my 2.3 project Bayesian analysis. Thank you and have a great day.